Hi, I'm Zendor, and yes, you have been expecting me. I'll be your guide, playing the devil's advocate as we peer into the depths of what keeps us afraid, angry, ignorant, and immobile. You draw your own conclusions. So many times, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And in today's world with so much misinformation keeping us apart, it really does matter how we interact with one another.
Namaste and in catch, and welcome to this episode of One World in a New World. I'm your host, Zen Benefiel, and I love how we euphemistically call our gatherings apocalyptic chats. Now, what's that mean? We unveil hidden knowledge, usually from inside of our guests, sometimes from me. You'll enjoy it nevertheless. I would invite you to also visit our sponsor, planetarycitizens.net. We are a nonprofit, and there's also a free download of Planetary Citizens Awakening the Heart of Humanity. It's a complimentary book that goes along with the effort, and I guarantee you it will light you up. So thank you for that. And also, don't forget, like, subscribe, share, make a comment. That's what brings the value to these conversations and your engagement in it. And we will engage you with any question that you ask. So again, thanks in advance for that. This week's guest is just going to blow your mind. His name is Nigel Hughes. He's a Brit, so we'll notice that change across the pond. I'm going to love this. He is a chief executive officer and founder of Outstanding Global, and he has this beautiful headline: "Be bold, be magic, be genius." Kind of a go-to thing, right? Leadership transformation, and as the founder, he is also director of leadership and founding associates of Maynard Lee Associates, a boutique learning and development community. And he's founder and CEO of his own nonprofit, Greenlight Trust, a nonprofit that connects people with nature. And we're going to dive into that for sure. He has degrees in fine art and acting. So this is kind of strange, right? Well, not necessarily so. For over 30 years, he's worked with founders, C-suite leaders, and senior teams to help them stand up for who they are, stand out for what they believe in, and lead with greater courage, clarity, and authenticity. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. You're going to have a phenomenal listen today. Welcome, Nigel. This is such a treat for us and for me personally to have the experience like yours to be able to query. Thanks so much for being with us.
Very welcome. I love being here.
Isn't it great to be here now? A little Baba thing, right? We're going to have a lot of fun and probably with some comedic interludes along the way. So, we have these conversations because, in my experience, we're bereft of having the conversations that really make the difference. And that's sharing what's going on inside of us. We're usually too afraid of being rejected or thought of being insane, crazy, whatever. I know, spend some time there. So, what happens is that we hold back. And in today's world, with everything that's going on, it's more important to learn how to live from the inside. And the only way to do that is to talk about it. And so that's what we do. And Nigel, I really appreciate your willingness to dive into that depth. So speaking of, when did you first recognize that there was more to life than the physical world that most of us experience without awareness of the other? How did that
Well,
happen? And I know you've had to have that. It might be pretty bizarre. That would be even way cool, right? It may not be. Some of us have more gentle awakenings, but I'm guessing that yours was probably a bit more dramatic.
well, The first thing that comes to mind is when I was 19, I took myself off on a travel alone to the Greek islands.
Mm.
And I traveled only with a sleeping bag and a bottle for water. And I went from island to island, literally island hopping. And whenever I arrived on a new island by the public ferry, I noticed where the tourists went.
And you went in the direction, yeah.
So I went in the opposite direction. And when I needed to, I would stop, knock on a house, and I would say 2 words that I'd learned, agua para calor, water please. And I would get invited in. And I got to stay in some places with some families, but I had a really extraordinary time, really looking at the other side of the tourist side.
And the unknown factor, right? You don't know what you're going to encounter, and you just launch into it. And as a 19-year-old, that had to have been just spooky cool.
It was very, very spooky cool. But
Yeah.
the point of the story is that having done that for about 12 weeks, different islands, about 6 islands, I went back to catch my train home, and I was staying in a hostel in Athens, and I woke up the next day, and suddenly everything had disappeared that I owned, apart from what I had on me, including my passport had gone.
My God.
So that was a bit of a wake up. So I went to the organizers of the hostel and I said, I'm terribly sorry, but I seem to have mislaid everything. I wonder if you could help me. And they went, oh my God, this has happened before. We're so sorry. So I started the whole process of trying to recover a passport, phoning home at that stage and saying, help, I need some
Help
money.
me, right?
But the important thing was the hostel owner said, well, if you've got nothing, here's a book. How about reading this book? I said, thank you very much. I will keep doing what I need to do to get me out of here. And the book is called Siddhartha. I didn't know.
Read that about the same age.
Yep, exactly. So Siddhartha, the story of the Buddha.
Yeah.
By Hermann Hesse. And I started reading it, and over the 5 days that I was stuck, it only took 5 days, thank goodness, but I read the book.
Well, yeah, without the connectivity that we have today, everything was
Paper.
sluggishly slow.
Yes. So, yep, so it took me 5 days, and I read the book 5 times in 5 days. And I was taken care of by the hostel owners. They took pity on me. And so that was really my spiritual awakening, because I read the story and I kept on going, I wonder why this is so important. I wonder why this is so important, because it spoke to me.
Beautiful curiosity.
Spoke to me. So I kept reading, and then I got my train home, and it took another 5 days in those days to go on the train from Athens back to London. Right. And I sat on the train and I read it again and again. So for 10 days, all I had was Siddhartha, the Buddha. I still have the copy of the original book.
And so many layers that you discovered with every read. Yeah.
Really. I think I could almost recite it, but I won't.
Sure.
So yeah, so that was my funnily enough, that was my second awakening. But it was the most profound. If I may, I'd like to share a previous story.
Oh, I'd love it. It would seem to be reasonable and create the logic path, right?
Yes. So the previous story was when I was 13 years old, 13. I was at my grammar school where my siblings had been before me, 2 elder brothers, 1 elder sister, and it was careers advisory time.
Oh boy.
So you stood in front of the board, 6 of them, 2 teachers from the school, 4 outsiders, and they looked at your academic record, everything about your family. I was a highly competitive and award-winning sportsman. I was also a champion Highland Scottish dancer. So I was a dancer. I also played for the under-15 rugby.
Real kilt lifter, huh?
Yes. So yeah. So I was quite a kid. And they looked at everything and they said, okay, Hughes, we think you ought to join the Marines. I said, thank you.
Yeah, really? Right.
This is Nigel Ronald Hughes you're talking to? They looked at each other. They looked at their paperwork. They went, yes. And I said, well, thank you very much for your advice, but I'm not going to join the Marines. I'm going to do ballet. Thank you for your time. And I left the room. On the way back to the classroom, tap on the shoulder, my geography and art teacher, a man called Tony Frank, said, please come back into the room. We would like to speak to you. Okay. The question was, okay, Hughes, we're interested. Why ballet, not Marines, given that all your family are military? And I said, well, my understanding is that if I'm trained in the Marines, I'm trained to kill people. If I'm trained as a ballet dancer, I'm trained to inspire people. Very much for your time.
Right.
And for me, I think it was in that moment where I kind of stood up for who I am, what I believe in. And I wasn't going to be cast as type.
And good for you. You know, so many today will cower and fit in to what others believe they ought to do without question.
Yep. Yep. And so that's my message for this audience. It's like, well, who are you? What are you? What do you believe in? What do you stand up for? And if you stand up for yourself and your own true values, then at least, as my mother used to say, tell the truth and you'll have nothing to remember.
Very true. Very true. My dad told me the same thing. He was a 32nd degree Mason, adoptive father. So I was really blessed with the child rearing that I got. Adopted early, you know, being an orphan gave me additional questions, right? When they told me they brought my sister home. 4.5, right? No prep work, just, oh, you're going to have a baby sister now. And so they decided it was time to tell me about adoption. And one question I had afterwards was, I'd already been to Sunday school, right? If I have a father and mother in heaven, can I talk to them? 4.5 years old.
Yep. Amazing.
Turns out I could.
You could?
I'd learn how to listen. Right? Well, there's 70,000 thoughts a day that we have, you know,
yes,
percolating. They got in the way. One night I finally learned how to be still, and the voice was there. It was amazing. And it's been with me ever since. It asked me if I was willing to die for what I believed in. At 18 in pre-med, I said yes to cosmic consciousness. And within a few moments, found myself in the light and went beyond it, given my mission, came back, being aware that we're all cosmic consciousness condensed into form, just unaware, which gives us the ultimate choice, like you made, right? Standing up for who you are, what you believe in, what you stand for. Now, did you find, speaking of, I'm going to take you on a little tangent with a question. What do you think the effects of COVID were in relation to making that discovery available to a global population obsessed on self-hygiene and sequestrated?
It's good because it's a very prominent global turning point. We just happen to live in a small village in rural Suffolk. The nearest place that the audience would know is Cambridge. It's about 27 miles away, university town. Fabulous place. But we're in rural Suffolk. And very interesting, we just happen to have about 6 acres of land here. And when COVID happened, of course, everything stopped.
Mm-hmm.
We all had to stop. We all had to breathe. We all had to explore. We were all in the unknown.
Mm.
And what we noticed was there were many villagers who were walking around just being with nature. They weren't on their phones. They were actually taking in the joys of nature. And as they walked past, we said, okay, you're walking past the front of our house, but we've got
Masked or unmasked?
we've got a 7-acre piece of land. Please feel free to walk around it anytime, because you'll see the beauty of nature. And many people did, and many people still do. But the point was that COVID gave us that time to stop and stare and really begin to take in our natural surroundings. And of course, for a lot of people, it was very challenging,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to actually begin to have to look in the mirror. And there's a wonderful quote by Maya Angelou, and she says, transformation is the moment one truly recognizes oneself.
Absolutely.
And I think that was the gift of COVID. We allowed ourselves to actually stop, breathe, look, listen. And I think there's been an ongoing consciousness since COVID. And of course, we all know with everything else that happens, technology in the last 5-6 years, everything is speeded up. But I still think there's a lingering element of people stopping, breathing, looking, listening.
Totally agree. And that's why I'm doing this. You know, my wife came to me. She's originally from Leningrad, USSR, trained at Mussorgsky College as a piano pedagogue, actually performed with the White Oak Project,
Mm-hmm.
Baryshnikov,
Mm-hmm.
his group.
Mm-hmm.
She was requested by a number of Russian ballet troops as they came through in her younger professional career. And so she's just, it's amazing. The advent of this opportunity, though, she came to me and said, you know, you got to start talking to people again. You're brilliant. You got stuff to say. People love you. I give you permission. And the reason she said that is I did a TV show 30 years ago on a similar topic. I was much younger, didn't have the education and the experience or the wisdom that life would offer. And so now today, the original show was One World. Now it's One World in a New World, because that's where we are, right? And in this, now the adaptation that some have taken on in the willingness to step up and explore themselves further, to develop the self-love, right, that we've been told was more hedonistic than spiritual.
Yeah.
When in fact, it's just the opposite.
Yeah.
True self-love, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where the questions are, the mirror, you know, that reflection of being able to find oneself in that. Now, do you think, you mentioned kind of a natural order with nature and things, do you feel that we also have a natural order built into us that we're presently unaware of?
Well, you know, people often say, you know, nature as if it's out there, but of course it's not. We are nature. We are part of nature, and it's one of the reasons why my husband and I, Rick, we set up Greenlight Trust, the environmental education organization, because it was helping people to live in harmony with nature.
Mhm.
And the first point of call for that is living in harmony with yourself.
Got to happen, right? You can't do it with anything else.
You just can't.
Now, why
So
do you think we think that the opposite is true? That we're constantly looking outside of ourselves to try to adjust and dominate, control, right? The resources we have, people we know, organizations we lead. How do we get so confused?
I don't know. But I guess, 25 years as an actor, because part of my history, I ended up being a singer, dancer, actor. And,
So you
when you
got to read the crowd
absolutely,
over and over, right?
and literally, yes, feed off
Yeah.
the crowd, because that's brilliant. I love it. But the thing about an actor is, of course, often people say, "Oh, you're just playing a part," and I'm going, "Yes, I'm playing a different part of myself in every different moment because we're multifaceted,
Mhm.
and it's not about taking things from the outside and characterizing, but it's actually drawing from the inside, and
Right.
that's what makes it truthful. That's what makes it unique. That's what makes it authentic. So that's why
Right.
many people can play the role of Hamlet
Sure. Well, and
because
singing's the same way, right? You lose your top, is what it's called, right? You go from here to your diaphragm.
yes, 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 exactly.
Now that
Yeah,
brings up something that the sensitivity, right? The three brain system from the indigenous, and you may or may not have heard about it. It's a way to process today that we haven't found yet. And they say we have three brains, the gut, the heart, and the head, right?
absolutely.
We now know scientifically and medically the gut has more neurosensors than we've ever imagined. So it's tuned into the vibrations around us, which quantum physics and mechanics now say everything's made up of it. There's nothing physical.
Hmm.
It's all vibration. So we
Hmm.
tune into that. Then we distill it in the heart. Kind of a Taoist thing, right? Not
Hmm.
necessarily Siddhartha-ish, but is it desirable or undesirable? And then what do we do with it? Well, we feed that up in more clarity to the multidimensional quantum computer sitting on our shoulders,
Yes.
which gives it a little more effectivity in supplying the answers that we need in the direction that we need to go.
Hmm.
Now, in your experience with the artistry, with the acting, with the singing, I know that had to have been something inside of you that you recognized in your interactions with the audience.
Yeah.
How did you come to that awareness and what were you able to do as far as your own interconnectivity and connection with the audiences?
Well, I guess again, when you ask that question, it just triggers a memory of when I was 5 years old.
Oh boy, I love it. Here's an apocalyptic moment, right?
Actually, 5 years old, I was part of the congregational church in our local. We were in a place called Sidmouth in Devon, and we went to Sunday school.
You
The
Brits
family,
have these strange hyphenated long town names, right? I think it's really cool.
yeah, yeah. So we went, and I was invited to sing as a 5 year old. So I said, okay, I'll sing. And the song that I sang was Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. And about halfway through the song, I just kind of stopped. And I really looked at the audience. And I just said to them, I think we're all twinkling together. And of course, everybody just went, "Ah!"
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Such brilliance coming from such a young mouth, right?
Yeah, 5 years old. So I
Yeah,
think that
yeah.
that was a
Well,
moment.
out of the mouths of babes, right?
Absolutely. And so that's one of those moments where I kind of went, I know what performance is about. It's not about me doing, but it's about us doing it together.
Yeah, it's the
It's that
being that comes forth in that.
exactly. Exactly. So
And
that's
we get the role reversals, right? We think we got to do in order to have, but we forget about the being and get lost in the do.
yeah, 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 yeah. Would you mind if I read a poem?
Oh, not at all.
I came across this because just as you've said that, it sits in front of me, and it's about being. It's called Breathe. It's by a woman called Becky Hemsley. She sat at the back, and they said she was shy. She led from the front, and they hated her pride. They asked her advice and then questioned her guidance. They branded her loud, then were shocked by her silence. When she shared no ambition, they said it was sad. So she shared her dreams, and they said she was mad. They told her they'd listen. They covered their ears and gave her a hug whilst they laughed at her fears. And she listened to all of it, thinking that she should be the girl they told her to be, best as she could. But one day she asked what was best for herself, instead of trying to please everyone else. So she walked to the forest and stood with the trees. She heard the wind whisper and dance with the leaves. And she spoke to the willow, the elm, and the pine. And she told them what she'd been told time after time. She told them she never felt nearly enough. She was either too little or far, far too much. Too loud or too quiet, too fierce or too weak, too wise or too foolish, too bold or too meek. Then she found a small clearing, surrounded by fir, and she stopped and she heard what the trees said to her. And she sat there for hours, not wanting to leave, for the forest said nothing. It just let her breathe.
Such depth, so many layers, such a reality for many, and so brilliant in its communication of that. Thank you. I'm glad that that's sitting by your desk and it got triggered to read it. That's so.
And it's also, but also, Zen, it's true of me, because that, as you know, that 5-year-old.
I felt it too.
Yeah. And I was allowed, we were allowed, because we were in a safe environment, we were allowed to go out on our bikes. And I went out on my bikes on my own, and I just rode through the countryside. And I constantly felt the wind. I constantly felt the power of the trees. So it's not surprising that later in life, I'm very connected to trees by conserving rainforest in Papua New Guinea and planting millions of trees in the UK and Europe.
Sure. That's just awesome. And I can relate to it somewhat. About the same age, I had a woods about a half a mile from the house, and we were in a really rural community in Indiana, and my parents, it was a trustworthy place, right? So they let me gallivant wherever, and I would spend half a day, 2/3 of the day in the woods by myself.
Yes.
And it was just an amazing time.
Yes.
What I think we both found in that was the freedom to just be ourselves, right? To think, to behave, to interact, to ask questions. And unbeknownst to us, there were always answers, right?
Yeah.
They
But
came
of course,
from somewhere, right?
Yeah. For me, I wasn't consciously stopping and thinking. I was just being.
Oh yeah, it was just natural. That's what I was talking about. This natural order that we have, and how we discover that and the freedom therein.
Yes.
Now,
Yeah.
in your as you moved through life, got older, graduated, went through your acting and arts programs, and what did you find in there that helped you move into this realm of preparedness to launch Outstanding Global and the Greenlight Trust? Because I know that's a progression that happens over time. You know, we
Yeah.
never find success overnight. It's
Yeah.
anywhere from 30 to 50 years of work that promotes it, right?
Well, interesting. The my acting career. You know, I played Judas. I played Jesus. I played Joseph. I did the three J's. Um,
Wow,
uh,
what perspective.
it was interesting, you know, in those rock musicals of the
Sure.
time. For you know,
Well, and I know from my own experience, when you go into something like that, especially as an actor,
mm,
you really go into the depths and you contemplate much more than anyone ever realizes.
yeah. And of course, in order for it to be truthful for the audience, as I said earlier, it's about identifying those different parts of yourself
Right.
that I could then play my Jesus. I could
Sure.
play my Jesus, you know, all
Right.
that kind of stuff.
Right.
So
Now,
yeah,
go
so it
ahead. I'm
was
sorry, I asked you a question prior, and I was going to launch with another one before you yes, answer.
so so yeah. I think the acting really brought me to recognize the different parts of myself,
Mhm.
and as you said, you know, you have to dig deep, and it was brilliant, you know, 20 years or so exploring different parts of myself. And then I came across something called the Actors Institute in
Hmm.
New York. And it was set up by a man called Dan Fossey. And his phrase was, you're either dangerous or you're dead. And I thought, oh, okay. So it means, you know, as an actor, as a performer, you have to take risks.
Right.
But
You
of
got to be
course,
fearless.
yeah, exactly. But you can't be stupid. You can't be reckless. You have to
Right.
find a way, you know, to take the risks that are
Well,
appropriate.
I'm glad you made that distinction.
Yeah,
Right? Because when we talk about fearlessness, a lot of folks think, well, you just, go at life with reckless abandonment. No, you don't. It's much more detailed and strategized and planned and thought, mindful expression.
yes. So through that, you know, looking at either dangerous or dead, suddenly I was in this workshop, which is a weekend workshop for creative people to
Hmm.
explore their dangerosity and their deadness. And suddenly business people started to come in because they were looking at how they could adapt this into the business world. And
Makes
that's
sense.
and that's what happened, is that we created workshops, business related workshops for people who were looking to explore further, you know, communication, to do better presentations, but also to be more strategic, to be more engaging. You know, the
Hmm.
thing about when you're in a piece of theatre, it's absolute teamwork.
Yes.
Even if you're playing the lead, you're not playing the lead. You're
No.
actually leading the way
It's
and
like,
bringing everybody together.
sure.
Yes.
But it's like when you're in high school and a star athlete, right?
Yep.
You learn that it's not about you, it's about the team. Uh,
Everything suddenly became about the team, and I
yeah.
just had to close the blind because sun was coming in. You can still see me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Good.
Much
Great.
brighter now.
Okay. Good. So
Part of
yeah.
you's in shadow, so we should we watch out? Right.
Oh, watch out! Always watch out for the shadow. There you go.
Yeah, quite good. Quite good.
So yeah, so in that whole kind of transition from, you know, playing parts,
Hmm.
then, you know, we discovered the whole thing around, you know, what's behind the mask. How often do we put on masks in order to hide who we are? So for us, it was
Do
about
we ever take them off?
Well, there you go. That's what I've been trying to do for the 76 years nearly that I'm around. You know, what's behind the mask? What's the other layer?
Right.
So yeah, so it's about finding a way, you know, through those multiple characters that I played, is to help people look at their own multiple characters and characteristics and how they can choose to be the best versions of themselves.
Sure. Sure. You know, it reminds me, I spent some time reading through authors' works. A guy named Guy Ballard that wrote under the pen name Godfrey Ray King. And it was a series of books about ascended masters and Guy's experience with one known as Saint Germain. Well, during that, he talks about the planetary logos that we have named Sanat Kumara. And supposedly the Kumaras are the ancient serpent beings that hold the universal codexes, right? They're administrative level of universe affairs.
Mm,
So in order for Sanat to gain office or to prepare for it, he was said to have split his consciousness into 1,000 individual incarnations simultaneously in
mm,
order to learn exactly what you're talking about,
mm,
and then go back with that intelligence and wisdom in order to better administrate the evolution of humanity.
mm, mm.
Now, whether that's true or not, it's a great story, right?
Yeah,
It really
yeah, yeah.
gets you to think about the dynamics of consciousness and what's possible.
Yes,
And you just gave a perfect illustration of how that same philosophy applies at a very personal level.
yes, yes, yes.
Brilliant. Thank you.
So again,
Now,
it's all, you know, it's all about from the inside out,
yeah,
and it's helping people recognize the parts of themselves, the inside out, that they can use effectively
right.
um, to, golly, do we need some healing on the planet right now? This is the time when we can use all the stuff that we've got inside
And
to help.
so many calendars and prophecies align
Mm,
with that,
hmm.
right? And even you trace back 15,000 years, Sanskrit poems called the Vedas.
Hmm.
And in those, we're told, synopsized, right? That we're all divine threads incarnate, connected to source and capable of God consciousness.
Yep.
Well, what's that mean? We're capable of being what we were created to be,
Yeah.
even though we may not know what that is yet,
Yes.
right? The fact
Yeah.
that we become curious of that now and find through science today that that possibility is more than just theory.
Yep. Yep.
What have you found in your work with the Greenlight Trust and working with others in nature that edifies that emergence in your patrons and in
Oh,
you?
yep. I suppose the thing that is true for us all, that when we begin to recognize that we are nature,
Mhm.
then that's when the light ascends and descends at the same time. That
It's
we're
that
not,
pulse, right?
yeah,
Like a heartbeat.
we're not separate. And in there's a process that we do which is based on Forest School's practice, and we call it the Sitzplatz. So you find a place of your own choosing within the woodland setting,
Mhm.
and you literally sit. You don't take any of your devices with you. You don't talk to anybody. You're alone, and you're alone with yourself, and you're alone with the wonder of nature.
Yeah.
And
The
over
silent retreat, right?
exactly, and over the period of time, often people come to Greenlight Trust for about 12 weeks for a 12-week re-engagement with themselves course,
Hmm.
and you go to the same place every day for 5 minutes, and that becomes your Sitzplatz. And there you begin to identify what changes within yourself, but also what changes in your surroundings.
Right.
And it's about being present.
Absolutely. Now, are there prompts that you offer for them to consider in that contemplative space?
The big prompt is, as Becky Hemsley says in her poem, breathe. That's the only prompt. Breathe. And when you find yourself doodly 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 doodling,
Right. Just watch.
breathe.
Yeah.
It's also part of the Vipassana meditation that I do,
Mm-hmm.
which is an ancient Buddhist meditation,
Yep.
which is adapted by S.N. Goenka, and again, it's about breathing. It's about noticing what's going on in oneself.
Right. I found a very similar place as a teenager um, on a bad trip,
Oh,
right? And so I was sitting with that, kind of freaking out internally, and all of a sudden, I put my fingertips together
oh,
and just kind of like this,
yes.
and in that space began to notice my heartbeat in them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My breath deepened.
Mm-hmm.
I paid more attention to the heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
My body started pulsing. I could feel my heartbeat in my entire body, and I was completely silent in my head. And
Mm-hmm.
I felt so connected.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is where prayer came from. This is that, right? Because you tune into yourself. That's
Yep,
you have a direct connect to the infinite intelligence that you are and is designed for you
totally.
and your frequency, however you want to term that,
Yep, yep.
right? Now, speaking of frequency, have you run into the Shabda and
No.
the explanation of it? It's a Hindu term that talks about the sound current, which is the combination of all the vibrations on the planet. I think it's more than that, right?
Mm.
Because as humans, we have a very human or earth-centric perspective, not
Mm.
realizing that that sound current is ubiquitous throughout the
Yes,
universe.
yes.
It's a very high-pitched, effervescent, iridescent sensation. It's
Mm.
not necessarily a hearing.
Mm.
Have you experienced that as well? And what have you found within that?
The answer is yes.
I figured as much.
And what I notice is on that level of frequency is it's all the physical sensations. The body literally tingles.
The
And
effervescence. Right.
yeah, and it rises and passes. And it rises and passes. And it rises and passes. That's why the tingling sensations in the body is very connected to the breath.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, as soon as you get a thought in your head that is bothersome, then you
It's
notice
gone.
the frequency changes
Yep.
and the anxiety might increase.
Or
So again,
or
you
or
are
the frequency even disappears, right? Because now you're thinking, you're no
exactly,
longer listening
exactly. So
until
again,
now,
so
are you at the point where it's resident as opposed to sporadic?
oh yeah, and I guess the thing is that it's about recognizing that the only thing that we have in life is breath.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? That's what keeps us alive.
Right.
If we don't breathe,
Yeah. It's the exchange that we have with nature
yes,
that gives us the inspiration,
literally inspire.
right, that then
It's,
allows our heart to come forth.
that's it. That's it. And it's about breathing out of our heads into our bodies. And as you
Yeah.
say, when you do
Yeah.
this and you feel the pulse, you notice.
Yeah.
This is the literal physical sensation.
Right.
You know, we can put our hands in lots of different places to find the pulse. And of course, if we were wise people, before we said anything, we would stop, we would breathe, we would feel the pulse, and we wouldn't blindly react to
Right.
anything.
I'm going to sit with that a minute because it is so rich with wisdom. Now, how do you see our evolutionary path in the current times being able to emerge with a little coaxing?
Mhm. The thing that's so profound for me is this Vipassana meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And I found it in 1982. I was invited to go, on a 10-day meditation retreat, and I went to a place in the south of France, and SN Goenka was the teacher, and 10 days of meditation in silence,
Yeah.
literally, no speaking allowed. So I've become a regular Vipassana meditator. But the important thing about this is this is a growing being. It's a global connected entity. And people come to it. Somebody says something, it chimes with them, they go. It's not easy. But for me, it's about there are millions and millions of people globally now. And you can, with an app, you can actually do a global sit, and you can see how many people are meditating at the same time, and it's phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's about daring to be still. And the group sittings happen for an hour. And it's about being still, knowing that there are millions of people being still globally at the same time with you.
Now, how do you respond to those that are production oriented, right? That's all fine and good, but we got work to do. We've got these deadlines and commitments and all this stuff that we have to make sure happens.
Yes, of course, we have to do all that too.
Yeah.
But for 1 hour a day or 2 hours a day, you can actually choose to be still.
Which makes the rest of it that much more effective.
Exactly. I was about to say it. And that's where you can, because again, coming from a military family, I was brought up with discipline.
Sure. Well, and that's really what it takes. It is, I think, by far from my own experience, and I've been the star athlete, musician, machinist, all kinds of different things and hats in my life that call me a mini hatman instead of a Mahatman, right? And all of those things
Mm.
are
Mm.
made far easier when you incorporate that silent prep work.
Yep.
Prior to. And this is what we're finding in organizational development today, servant leadership, right? The leader then empowers the team by example first and doing the things that are necessary to support the team, not their agenda.
Yes. 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 But of course, I call it. I have this little phrase. It's going from RIP to VIP.
Right.
So rest in peace where nothing happens to VIP. And being a VIP is everybody can be a VIP. because it's people with vision, inspiration, and purpose.
I love the trinitized fractals that show up, right? They're everywhere.
Yeah.
One of mine is where we focus our attention, intention, and interaction is what
Mm-hmm.
manifests in our lives, whether we
Mm-hmm.
are conscious or unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there was another thought that just passed through that's a little more out there, and that is the capacity that we have for that ability to be an open channel of whatever needs to be present to emerge, which is usually the thoughts that everybody else is thinking, but are too scared to voice them, right?
Absolutely.
Now,
Absolutely.
how could we be effective disruptors without being too disruptive?
Yeah. Um, I don't think there's a simple answer to that. But
If
again,
there were, what might it be?
well, again, it goes back to purpose for me.
Hmm.
You know, what do you want people to think, feel, and do differently in any given moment to serve the higher purpose?
Right.
And
Do
and
you
again,
find it it's easier to, if I may, because this begs the question of, isn't it more about how they connect with that and the questions that they ask, not necessarily framed in, right?
curiosity, curiosity, and curiosity is the
Yeah,
key.
how do I fit in and to the best of my ability with the skill set and talent and intelligence that I have?
Yes. And again, that goes back to our multifaceted characteristics.
Hmm.
And again, you know, going back to my days as a performer, as a singer, dancer, and actor, it's like identifying parts of myself that's in tune, literally, with the music.
Right.
Because if I'm not in tune physically, we can't partner.
And music isn't necessarily from a score, right? The music is part of that sound current.
Exactly. And that's why singing, dancing, acting is all about being in tune.
Hmm.
Number one, we have to be in tune with the writer. Yes, because we are there. You talk about servant leadership. As a
Right.
performer, we have to serve the author's inspiration. If we're working in a business, we have to serve the leadership vision.
Hmm.
We're all there to serve it and to bring whatever aspect that we can bring in our individual way, because we all have unique talents and skills that can actually make the holistic.
Absolutely. And it's kind of like D. Hawk's framework in that, a chaotic organization where everybody has their ability to find their appropriate place and fill it,
Yes, 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 yes,
right?
yeah,
Beautiful, right? Chaotic from the command and control perspective,
yes,
right? Because it totally obliterates that, and yet it doesn't. It's a different command and control system.
yeah, 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 yes. And some people, of course, thrive in chaos, like I do,
Yeah.
and some
Ditto.
people,
Because you can see the patterns.
yeah, and some people create chaos in order to thrive.
And do you find that in when things are stuck, right? Somebody has to step in to create the chaos
Yeah, 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 yeah,
in whatever way. And
yes,
sometimes
without
it's
harming another person.
yeah, and that's where this peace through force
Yeah, yeah,
isn't
yeah.
working anymore.
No, 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 no. Yeah, yeah.
How do you
And
see that evolving in what you found in your work and what you can see in the mirrors of others in the reflection of how you're seeing humanity as a whole moving forward now.
Mm.
Or even if they are, right, they still might just kind of be stuck in fear of, oh, holy shit, what's going to happen next, right?
Yes. Well, for me, it's about listening,
Mm.
and listening for me is not just about listening, but it's about seeking to understand and listening to other people's perspectives rather than just jumping in with your own perspective and being blind to what other people's points of view are.
Right.
So again, that's about cooperation. It's about collaboration. It's about creating partnership. It's about give and take. And that's, again, in business terms, that's all about an ACE team, if you like, aligned, creative, and exploring. We need to be aligned with each other.
Now, go ahead.
We also need to be able to be creative, using our own creativity. And we also need to be, going back to the old dangerous or dead, we need to be exploring.
Right.
Because if we don't explore, then we just stay stuck and it all stays linear.
Speaking of exploring, what about this thing called love? Right?
Wow.
Do we have this deep, unfulfilled desire to simply love and be loved?
Hmm. Yes, I think we do. And again, as you raise that point, it just reminds me of a picture that I have in my mind of literally a photograph of when I was around that age of 5, 6, 7,
Mm-hmm.
and I was doing my Scottish Highland dancing and winning lots of cups and medals. And even though coming from the military background, I have a picture which is framed, which is of me as this 7-year-old in my kilt, my sporran, my tam o' shanter, and my father is looking at me. He is looking at me with enormous compassion, love, pride, humanity. And it's a picture I've always had in my head.
Yeah.
And when he died when he was 47, I was 15.
Tough.
It's my abiding memory of him that I just know that I was truly, truly loved.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt the same way with my adoptive father. I actually met my birth father,
Hmm.
unbeknownst.
Mm.
It was like late 80s, 88, 89, at, of all places, a UFO conference,
Of
right?
course.
I've been wondering my whole life, because I've had experiences since I was a kid and still ongoing.
Yeah.
I don't talk about a whole lot because it's just too bizarre.
Yeah.
However, I wondered, where the hell did I get all this from, right? Because I know it's got to be passed down through the blood somehow,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I meet this guy. We have a conversation. He tells me where he's from. It's a town 12 miles from where I grew up, right? First indicator. I had this sense that there was more there. I never brought it up, though.
Wow. Oh, wow, 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 wow,
But
wow.
and I don't know if I did it because I didn't want to burst my bubble,
Yep.
right? That it may not be true. And yet it felt connected. And we had this, I liked the man.
Yes.
He invited me to his cabin for the weekend. I went up, spent it. We went to a couple of discussion groups with contactees and abductees. And it was just joy. And then he says, I'm going to head to India and find a guru. Didn't hear from him. And then I met my birth mother through my wife's subscription to Ancestry that she got me for our first Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
And mom told me his name. And I'm like, oh my God,
I've met him.
no way. No
Shoot.
way. And so I start researching Yahweh. It was him,
There you
right?
go.
So here's these magical moments of connectivity that we have
Mm,
sprinkled throughout our lives that most of us just completely miss because we're not curious enough to keep an eye on what we have experienced and what it holds, harvesting it, right,
mm,
to nourish our future.
yes. Yes.
Now, that being said, at an individual level, how can we do it at a global level, at a planetary civilization? How can we recognize that as part of our healing process in order to move out of the peace through might to the peace through understanding?
Yeah. Well, I guess my answer to that is we can't take on the whole elephant. We can only do what we can do consciously, presently, being in love every second that we can be in love.
Yeah.
That's all we can do.
And
And then,
addressing what's it right in front of you to do, because life, energy, God, whatever you want to call it, it's like we're tesseracts, right? We throw our intention out and then we embrace it as it returns, whether we realize we created it or not.
yes,
And the further along we get in life, the more we recognize that we did create this and we embrace it with that loving kindness,
yes,
long suffering, if you will,
yes, yeah,
of the childish kid that created all this to give themselves, the challenges that they need to meet to become wise.
yeah. And it's interesting because, just on a practical level, we go shopping, don't we?
Oh yeah,
We need to buy stuff.
we need to
And
buy
actually,
stuff, and we're assimilationists.
yes. And what I notice is that any time there's an interaction between customer and shopkeeper, trader, if we actually have that transaction with love, we both go away feeling much better as a result of. And it's not just about the commercial transaction. It's
No,
about that spirit. But
it's about the
sometimes I know,
connection.
yeah, but sometimes, of course, we're a bit agitated, we're a bit impatient. And then, of course, you have that conflict.
Then it feels like a transaction instead of a conversation.
Exactly. So I always have in my heart, I'm always kind to shopkeepers, traders, whatever. Then it's helping people to, yeah, just be in love with themselves.
Right. And those are seeds, right?
Mm,
We
mm-mm.
remember those experiences. I've heard so many times it doesn't matter what you say to someone or leave them with, it's how they feel about what happened.
Yeah, yep, yep, yep.
Again, brings it down to a gut level. The emotion, it's beyond emotion, right? It's like a whole different sensory array that we have that's in our bodies, built in.
Yes,
Right? You can do the studies about it. You got the chakras, the marmas, the meridians, all the centers and very well studied, researched, right? Science of Eastern medicine, not necessarily Western. Western is starting to catch up, though, right? They're starting to get away from the prescriptive
yes,
quality of the profiting of the pharmaceutical companies and how they've
yep.
abused mental health and
Hmm.
humanity, right, for profit. And this is now changing. There's much more. It's like, okay, how do you find that people are seeking natural remedies now?
Well, I have to talk of my own experience because I am a colorectal cancer survivor,
Oh, congratulations.
and that happened, 12 years ago. And of course, you go the regular route with the medication and all that. But actually, I began to say, excuse me, what I'm experiencing is that you're just giving me your usual whatever,
Right.
but there's somebody else in here. So I actually started to look for all the alternatives, and I came across the Royal London Hospital of Integrated Medicine.
Mm.
So I worked with a cancer specialist, but she was also a homeopath. And if I may,
Love those crossing, right? Holistic MD, right?
but for me, if I may, there is a book that I've written about my own experience. It's called Cancer Patients, as in PATIENCE.
Oh, that's beautiful. I'll make sure that that's in the description of the video.
And the subtitle is Hope and Healing Through Nature.
Hmm.
And what I discovered was that we had a plant that was growing in our own backyard, and it turned out to be an evening primrose. And we were just sitting in the backyard, and suddenly I noticed the evening primrose just... And I thought, Then, of course, it took about 6 or 7 minutes to really open. And then
Oh, you were sitting in silence.
Yes, yes.
Oh, yes.
A little insect came and landed exactly. So it was the whole thing about, again, being present, slowing down, taking the attention off yourself, noticing the power of nature.
Right. And the rhythms and the patterns and the cycles and the systems that are all interacting simultaneously.
And in all that, then that was actually my hope and healing through nature. So yeah, so it's worth people reading if you're coming across any difficulty or you're thinking about how to heal yourself. Have a read of my book, because I just wrote a journal basically as everything was happening. But
and
here I am.
Experience is our truth, right?
Yes. Yes, yes.
However we choose to frame it, or however we believe our direct experience is driven, we've got far more choices in the management of it by how we think, feel, and believe. And the faith, love, and trust that we either have or are questioning, right? Because truth loves to be questioned. The curiosity factor, as you've mentioned. The more questions you ask, the more the universe loves it, right? Because we are taught, what is it?
But if you've got to stop and listen to the answer.
Oh, absolutely. And this brings up a good point. When I first heard the voice as a kid, after asking the question, if I have a father and mother in heaven, can I hear that, or can I talk to them? I was on landing of our sailboat one night, arms in the elbows in the windowsill, chin on my hands, looking out over the front porch after dark. Porch light was on. Street traffic, minimal. It was about 50 feet in front on the main street in town. And all of a sudden, my mom's watching TV at the bottom of the stairs. I can hear it. All of a sudden, I hear this deep male voice, "Hey, you," right? And instead of interacting, I spun around. Mom, do you hear that voice? Right? Of course, she didn't. And then I realized, okay, I know what I heard. And so, Dad worked third shift. He would take his nap between 8:30 and 9:30. Mom would be in the kitchen. My sister would be asleep. I'd stand in front of the living room window, curtains open, light on, couldn't see out because of the reflection. And I would project the voice out, hoping for a return. And of course, as we know, 70,000 thoughts a day. Well, it took a while for me to get still.
Yes.
One night I did.
Wow.
And the voice returned.
Aye, aye.
And of course, I immediately got excited and then wasn't still anymore. However, I had that experience, so I know where to go to have it again. It's the discipline and practice of being able to get there.
Yes, definitely.
That became the challenge.
Yeah.
And I think that's true for many, probably you as well. How'd you navigate your way through that one?
Well, again, it just brings up the question of it's about choice.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody says, "Oh gosh, I never give myself 5 minutes." I've never got 5 minutes. Do you know what? Because you don't choose to give yourself 5 minutes.
You are your scheduler.
Yeah, totally. And there is always 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Once you get conscious and once you get into choice, there is always 5 minutes. And that's all it takes, actually, just to
It really does. Now,
breathe.
do you find that because of taking that 5 minutes, that everything else seems to work much better and in less time?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we were talking earlier about a morning routine.
Right.
My morning routine is I get up, I have a cup of tea, but then I have my 35-minute walk
Mm.
in silence
Bhakti yoga, right?
around our piece of land.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what the weather is. I also have then my Vipassana meditation practice,
Sure.
but it's that
Yeah, I
moment.
think I was correct, right? With Bhakti yoga, that's a walking meditation.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. I got
Um,
so many terms in my head, sometimes I get confused.
I know. Yeah. But again, it's choosing to give yourself that time. And I notice that if I don't give myself that time, then I'm bereft and I'm not centered.
Yeah.
I'm not focused.
Yeah.
That's when accidents happen.
Yeah.
Also, on that walking meditation in the morning, I have my worst and my best ideas. Yeah.
Well, that's the whole, you're open to everything, and there is no right or wrong. There's no good or bad. There's,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's just all
It's just,
present, and you're watching
yeah.
as well as being curious,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes.
And those curious questions are going to bring up both sides of the spectrum because we're bipolar by nature,
Absolutely.
right?
And also the things then is that I'm often away on business, and people say, well, how can you do your 35-minute walk when you're away on business? I said, well, I still do, because wherever I am, if it's walking around a car park in a multi-story building for 35 minutes, that's what I do.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
surroundings don't matter.
there's still you can still get value.
Some can be better. I'll put it that way, and so it facilitates a better mindful experience, right? Where is the others, and it may, especially in the business arrangements, when you're engaging that, it may be a better place to have that um, a little constriction, for lack of a better,
Mm-hmm.
in the openness of the environment to focus you in on the details at hand.
Yeah. And again, just, for me, the beginning of any interaction when I'm working with a team or a group is that we always start with 5 minutes silence.
Mm.
And it's uncomfortable. And people
Until
go,
it gets comfortable.
exactly. Why are we do? Why are we?
Yeah.
Let's just do it.
Well, it's a habit.
Yeah.
Once
Yeah.
you create that, what is it, 21 days to change a habit,
Yes.
I think it might happen sooner than that for some, but let's say that's the process, right? So it's going
Yes.
to take you 21 days to fully shift out of the old behavior and into the new,
Yep.
because you got to remind yourself constantly until it
Exactly.
becomes first nature, not second.
Yes. Absolutely.
Now, you've just given a whole lot of advice to the audience, and I usually have a question. What would be your daily practice that, you could offer an advice to others, something simple that they can practice in the moment, every morning, whatever time they're available or choose? Um, what could you offer as a very last parting gift?
Okay. I think for me, it comes out of my Vipassana meditation, and it's kind of a prayer for peace, and it's called metta, the meditation of loving kindness,
Okay.
for the art of living. May I be free from anger, hatred, animosity, ill will, and jealousy. May I generate love, peace, harmony, compassion, and sympathetic joy. I pardon all those who knowingly or unknowingly have harmed or hurt me through their thoughts, speech, or actions. I seek pardon from all those who knowingly or unknowingly I have harmed or hurt through my thought, speech, or actions. All are my friends. None are my enemies. May all beings be happy.
Woohoo! And we can be, right? It's so Nigel, I have immensely enjoyed this conversation. It hasn't, there's some times where it feels like an interview. There's other times where it feels like old friends getting together, swapping stories and reflecting, same things, right? And this is one of those. It's just been a true joy, and I do appreciate your time.
Me too. Thank you. I've enjoyed it, and I'm hearing the blackbird singing at this moment.
And it's not the dead of night.
No. You hear it?
Wonderful. So I will have all your information down below in the video. And again, thank you so much for showing up and being who you are.
Lovely. Thank you.
And namaste and in-law catch. And thank you for sticking with us for this episode of One World in a New World. And for myself and Nigel Hughes, we really appreciate and are gratified by your time and attention, and even more so by your subscription, your comments, and your likes and shares. Because that's how this spreads, is through you, not just us. So thank you so much for sticking with us again, and I'll see you next time. Namaste.
Let's explore a story that goes from a kind of weird childhood to, meetings in space.
This all comes from Zen Benefiel's book, where he lays out his pretty unbelievable life story. He basically says, look, this is going to sound wild, so let's just go with it, shall we?
So, how did this all get started? Well, his childhood was anything but normal.
He was adopted, had out-of-body experiences, and took nightly trips to a strange orange cloud. Casual, right? Then, as he got older, all those weird childhood things started to, connect. And bam, a book falls off a shelf, linking that orange cloud to UFO contact stories. Whoa. Later, he's at his aerospace job when a voice just tells him, grab a pencil and draw. And his hand just moved, like totally on its own, creating this incredibly complex image. This is what he drew. It became this massive puzzle he spent years trying to figure out. Then, in 2000, his private journey suddenly went very, very public at a spiritual conference. Out of nowhere, he's introduced as royalty from the Ashtar Command and asked to lead an Earth crew. A year later, things got even crazier. We're talking way beyond earthly events now. He says he was taken aboard a starship for several nights to, get this, run a series of meetings. And the attendees? Reptilians, insectoids, Zetas, a who's who of the Galactic Federation. And the agenda? Oh, just finalizing the rules for making first contact with us humans. No big deal. When it was all done, they gave him this plaque. Apparently, this moment was millennia in the making. So, after all that, what do? Well, he tried to bring this cosmic mission down to Earth. He did a TV show, started websites, got into community activism, and went deep into ufology, which put him right in the middle of huge public stuff, like the famous Phoenix Lights investigation. So it makes you wonder, if an experience feels totally real to you, does it matter if nobody else saw it?